Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 141. That's 141 episodes. Yes, we've actually done this for more than 141 hours. I don't know how.
A lot more.
A lot more, yeah. It's, tons more. Tons more. This week, my name is Russell Frost. I am your host this evening. This week, Danny Cooper is taking a week off for, let's see, what can we, anybody have any suggestions? What kind of excuse can we make for Cooper?
Sex change operation.
Sex change operation. I like that. So, Ms. Cooper will be back with us next week.
Danielle.
And we look forward to welcoming Danielle Cooper back. Until then, though, it's boys' night here on What Drives Us. So let me introduce the first member of our Sausage Fest. His name is Paul Guzik. Hey, Paul.
Hey, everybody. I'm calling you from Colorado, where it's been raining for a month solid. Actually, today was really nice. So.
You were saying it before the show. Everything's nice and green there.
It's very green and very wet, and luckily no major floods like they have down in Texas, so it's all good.
Obviously, you haven't pissed off God.
That's right.
I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah.
I know why these things occur, okay? It's not my fault. I know
Yeah.
that. I can't control it. If I could, Texas would have been flooded years ago. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. Next up, our man in the Midwest. His name is Dr. Evan Fusco.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Good to be here.
Thanks for coming along, Evan.
It's like my weekly therapy session.
It is kind of therapeutic, don't you think?
It really is.
Yeah, I think that. I get that. And finally, last and most certainly not least, our man in the Pacific Northwest, where it's always green and beautiful, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello from Oregon. Speaking of rain, actually 2/3 of our state is now in a severe or extreme drought.
Oh,
and
no.
This is only May, so
Oh.
August is going to be real bad.
Well, maybe I don't want to say little-known fact, but I know this because I've driven the entire width of your state. A good 50% or more of the eastern part of the state is actually desert.
Yes, yep. People don't think about that with Oregon, but yep, we have a lot of high desert area.
You think about Portland, and you don't think about like old volcano cones and desert and 100+ degree temperatures. And I've driven through that. It's really beautiful and very unpleasant.
You know, they could build a pipeline from Texas to Oregon to pump water back up there, you know. So.
It's a great idea. I don't know why we haven't done it yet.
Got a Kickstarter campaign to do that, I think.
I think a GoFundMe. Yeah, I think this is the second week in a row too. We've suggested that someone build a pipeline from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, I think maybe we would be laying some pipe that isn't for tar sand oil.
Yeah.
Forgive me for that. So
if you could run Elon Musk's Hyperloop through the same pipeline, that'd be awesome.
There you go.
The Elon Musk trademarked Hyperloop.
Yep. The Tesla guy.
Let's get
Mr. Tesla. Mr. Tesla.
Patrick has our sole 2-minute topic this week, so let me turn the microphone over to him, Mr. Connor.
Okay, I have a story from 24/7 Wall Street. It's titled, Tesla Market Value Tops Chrysler's. They point out that Tesla will sell about 50,000 cars this year, whereas Fiat Chrysler sold more than 600,000 just last quarter. So despite the massive difference in sales volumes, Tesla has a market cap of $31 billion, and Chrysler's is only $21 billion. So,
and does that include Fiat in Europe and all that?
I think it does. Yeah,
Wow.
They just said Fiat Chrysler, so they're talking about the entire company, as far as I can tell from this.
Or is it yay?
So then they go on to say sales volumes are not all that matter when you're looking at stocks, and that the collective market intelligence is saying there's something hugely different about these companies and their future. You might look at it and say the gas engine will be overtaken by demand for electric cars. But then they go on to say that doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to be Tesla. There's many other players in that space, and the legacy car manufacturers certainly all have their toe in there in those waters, and so they could jump in, and Tesla might be riding on some irrational exuberance at the moment.
Irrational exuberance. All right.
Perhaps a bit of hype.
Yeah.
So really, investors might be, irrational all the time.
There's a little, almost an aside at the end where they say that GM and Fiat Chrysler are in merger discussions. That would be interesting.
Wow.
GM just shed a bunch of brands, so why would they be picking up more?
Yeah, how does that, I can see how that might benefit Fiat. I'm not sure how that benefits Chrysler or GM.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless Chrysler really wants to be the next Pontiac and go away in a couple of years.
They can only dream.
Yeah, I guess, maybe GM would make Dodge Rams and what? Anything? Is there anything else that Chrysler makes that's...
Jeeps.
Jeeps, pardon me. And that's a huge American brand name, so
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, Jeep and Ram trucks.
And then
I haven't driven a passenger car from Chrysler that was worth the time in a long time.
They had the K car back in the day.
Yeah! I think those were made out of Lego bricks, weren't they? That's horrible. Why would I go there and say stuff like that? Well, thank you, Patrick. It does seem kind of odd that Tesla is somehow worth $10 billion more than Chrysler. Then again, that's sort of like, what do they call that? The soft bigotry of low expectations. You know what I mean? Like comparing Tesla to Chrysler is like my honor student's smarter than your goldfish. Is that?
yes, you're right. It's very apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I get that the Tesla value is really as artificial as that comes. This isn't like comparing Apple to Microsoft or something else where you've got two big companies that actually produce things. Tesla's
and one with $140 billion cash in the bank.
Right. And it has a whole line of successful products. Tesla is successful, but in a very, very small, low-volume way. And I don't even know what kind of margins they're working on. I'm sure Elon's keeping that under his hat.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not exactly what's driving their stock or their growth. And we talked about this on the show, so it was interesting to find an article that covered some of the same aspects that we've touched on.
I agree. And I think it's nice that we haven't let Evan say one word about a Tesla story.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think the only bit I have to add to this is, certainly a lot of the artificial inflation of the Tesla stock is speculative. The Model X is theoretically coming out any day now, and the Model 3, depending on how much you want to believe Tesla promise, is going to be out in the next couple of years, and people want to be riding that train when it does take off. So.
And the Gigafactory.
Yeah.
The Gigafactory.
It's a Giga now.
Is it a GIF or a GIF? I don't know. I hate GIF. Yeah, it's a Gigafactory. I like that, Paul. That was nice.
Is it 1.21 gigawatts?
It is. And their next car is going to look just like a DeLorean.
In fact, it is a DeLorean.
Well, have the wing doors.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
It will be a DeLorean.
With DeLorean reliability.
Oh. Cold. Next, you're going to start dropping Brooklyn bombs,
They have to make the James Bond sub car first. Then they can do the
Elon.
DeLorean.
Yeah, I'm sure Elon's working that out right now, I don't even want to go there. Let's talk about Kansas City, because not enough is said about Kansas City. And Evan, I'm really glad you're here tonight, because you are a native Well, you were a resident of this
A resident.
area.
Yes, and I actually drive to Kansas City fairly often, and I've used their charging infrastructure a couple different times. A couple times before the big announcement. I think it's been 6 months, I think, since they made the announcement that they were going to expand the electrical vehicle charging options. And this article says more than 1,000. I'd heard actually 2,000 EV charging stations that were going to be a combination of level 2 and level 3 CHAdeMO chargers throughout the Kansas City metropolitan area, all funded by Kansas City Power and Light. And I was a little, we'll see what they do, but they jumped into it with both feet and really started doing installations quite quickly throughout the city. And if you look at the PlugShare website or whatever your favorite EV charging webpage is, it's really exploded the number of chargers that are available throughout the city. I had the opportunity to use one of the CHAdeMO chargers shortly after I got my adapter for the Model S, and it worked quite well, but it had just been installed less than a week before I utilized it, and at the time the spot was not painted. It was still marked as a handicap spot where they'd put in the charger, so it was a little uncomfortable parking there. And it was located inside a parking garage that was charging an event fee for a concert that was going on that night. So I had to pay the $20 event fee to be able to use it rather than just the regular overnight fee that was there. And then found out
Did you have to walk away from the car with a limp to look handicapped?
Well, I asked the dude that was supposedly a manager, which I'm pretty sure was a high school dropout. It seemed a little sketchy, but he's like, yeah, it's all right, man, whatever. And so I left it, and I didn't get in any trouble or anything, but it felt really weird because it was the first handicap spot right after you pulled in past the little ticket discrepancy deal, and so it's a premium spot, and that's actually a key point. Some of the mistakes that I think that they're making installing these so far is that they have chosen to place them in some really premium parking spots, and a lot of users are finding that A, because the spots aren't marked, and B, even the spots that are marked appropriately, they're being iced on a regular basis, and very often are not available for charging because they're there and it's a crowded parking garage and there's a nice spot and they just pull right in, and there's not really anything you can do about it to stop that from happening. So they're learning. It's coming along. They still need to paint some spots. I still applaud the effort. For me personally, for Kansas City, it's a little too late because they opened up the Independence, Missouri supercharger, which is only about 10 miles outside of downtown Kansas City, and that's faster and just as convenient, if not more convenient for me than using the CHAdeMOs and other level 2s. But it's nice that there will be so many level 2 options just kind of randomly available that if I'm spending a day or two in Kansas City proper, that at least I can keep the car topped up while I'm doing my day-to-day driving, and then I can finish topping off at the supercharger before I head home.
Wasn't one of the headlines there's 1,000 chargers and 1,000 owners of EVs right now or something? It's a pretty amazing number for it's like build it and they will come.
And that's exactly what it is. And actually, I think most of us are going to agree. I applaud that effort. If you put them in there and they become that visible to the public, I think people will think twice when they go to the car lot and are considering buying a car and considering an electric or at least some sort of a plug-in vehicle when they know that they'll have that available to them.
Yeah, it's funny. I wonder how much people will actually need them versus this just alleviates that fear.
Yeah, I think you and I both know that. The future is really going to be in destination charging, much more so than public charging. Going forward, people are going to charge at home for the 90% of the stuff that they do. It's certainly nice to have it available, but I don't know how practical it is in the long haul, because eventually somebody's going to realize they have to charge people to use them, and then people aren't going to want to pay to use them because they can charge at home unless it's a destination and they're traveling.
And how many hydrogen fueling stations are there?
Oh,
Well,
And
funny
some
the number
large
of
multiple
unicorns.
of 0.
yes. Okay, so I have a couple problems with this article, and I'm sure that comes as a surprise to everyone on the panel.
With the article or with the project?
Well, yes. So first of all, I just want to read something here from down towards the middle of the article. There's a line here that kind of stuck, and I'm not really sure. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. They're talking about the number of EVs, and in fact, Evan just said about 1,000, and this article says there's a little more than 1,000 EVs on the road in Kansas City, and they compare it to EV hotbeds like the West Coast. So, quote, Los Angeles is going to have around 91,000 EVs on the road, San Francisco 44,000, and San Jose 31,000. None of them have 1,000 public charging stations.
Yep.
That cannot be accurate.
Well, most people charge at home, so.
Yeah, and that may be the flaw in this whole system.
Right. Okay. So I'll take a step back. Let's pretend that's totally accurate. What kind of insane idiot wants more charging stations in Kansas City than in Los Angeles?
Yeah, Evan touched on it earlier when he said they're making some of the same mistakes that have been made other places. They're not really looking at what the usage pattern would be, where the right places to put them are. They're putting in 15 CHAdeMO stations,
right?
Well, and 1,000 level 2s. They should take that and change that ratio significantly. If you're out on the road, you want to be able to charge quickly. And there are a few places, destination charging, where you'd be okay charging for several hours. But for the most part, if you can't do a quick charge and keep going, it's pointless.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the other thing I'm thinking of is, like, I can see, in a regional sense, people shopping or whatever, driving around the Kansas City metro area. Okay, that's cool. There's a charging station. While I'm in here, I'll, plug it in. Awesome. But we're not going to see that many people stopping in Kansas City overnight to charge their car. It's just
right.
like...
Right, so had they consulted with me, my suggestion probably would have been to stick with their 1,000 level 2 chargers, but place them more strategically where there would be 4 at each hotel in the area that was willing to set aside the parking spots to have them, and maybe put half a dozen or more at the zoo and at the major museum.
Cinema parking lots.
Places that people are going to go and stay for hours on end or stay overnight, and that are more representative of a true destination rather than a downtown parking lot where you're going to run inside for an hour or 2 hours to watch a movie or something, because that's not really a necessary spot. Whereas if you are traveling to Kansas City overnight on business and you get there in your Model S and you want to just plug it in and charge and not have to worry about stopping at the supercharger for an hour, there you go. You're all set. Unfortunately, they didn't consult with me.
They didn't.
It's a little shocking.
But Evan's got a million kids. I thought it was sort of funny because over and over again this article really references the fact that Kansas City is so much more aggressive than West Coast cities. Number one, I find that hard to believe.
Which is the Google city out there that has like fiber optics to every house?
Oh, I don't know. Is that Kansas City?
I don't know. It's not Nixa.
It's somewhere out there. Like, someone Google it.
I'm Googling it right now. Kansas City.
Yeah. So they got gigabit internet and superchargers. So.
And all 16 people with computers have fiber optic to it.
Yeah.
I got you know what I don't have any problems with Kansas or Kansas City. You know, so just for the record,
maybe they've got like city envy, kind of. You know, they want to be cool like the West Coast places.
You know, I mean, I think Chelsea and I have disagreed in the past because she sees deploying too many stations as setting up a very, very likely bad backlash. And I see that. I see her point, but I don't think it's. I think maybe she tends to overstress it. That's
the backlash from the general public.
I don't know. You know,
I mean, what they should have done is built less stations and then put the money in a fund for credits on buying the cars, and then you get people buying the cars and stations, and then it starts building organically.
They talk about that. It's they talk about the chicken and egg problem, and they think that people have concerns, and even if you give them a discount, if it's a discount on something they don't think will work for them, they're not interested in it. So this is about awareness, maybe even more so than actually charging. We can just install dummy sticks out there.
There's 100 or 1,000 stations that no one's using, and people go by and they're always empty. They go, oh, no one's using them. No one must be buying these cars. Why buy one? No one wants them. So you don't want to have a whole bunch of empty stations. You need them utilized.
And it's just a waste. I mean, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of effort. It's I mean, yes, someday will the roads in Kansas be teeming with electric vehicles? Very possibly. Are they right now? No, they're not. 1,000 cars in the entire state, and probably 95% of those are in Kansas City.
Oh no.
No.
No. Remember, we got St. Louis too, and Springfield, Jeff City. Yeah, they're spread out. I'd be surprised if there are 300 or 400 there.
So does KCP&L service all those areas too, or is
no?
Okay, because I'm kind of taking it as this is a KCP&L project, right? Kansas City Power and Light.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And so they're doing the whole the Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, both metro area that they're installing these.
Oh, you mentioned earlier about just throwing out charging stations and how it can go bad. That definitely happened here when Blink was deploying them like crazy. They were putting them in out-of-the-way spots. They were breaking. They weren't getting fixed. And Blink subsequently Ecotality went out of business.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really do have to do more than just try to get out a number as quick as possible. That's not a smart way to do it.
All right.
Well, and let's be realistic. I mean, the whole I don't really get the whole range anxiety. Number one, the charging stations are going to cure range anxiety. Really, is that what they're for?
They're
not.
Yes.
That's all.
It's a safety net
for the prospective driver or prospective buyer that has that anxiety. I mean, it's the first question you get with an EV. How far can it go on a charge? Where can you go to on it? And then I say, oh, I've driven to St. Louis and Kansas City. Really? Wow. I didn't realize you could do that. So it is the first thing on people's mind. And is it ridiculous? Maybe. And it's kind of fanciful to think that putting in a bunch of J1772s around the Kansas City metropolitan area is going to cure anybody's big picture range anxiety. Exactly. But it may get them through the door of the dealership and putting their money down to buy one until they figure it out, like the rest of us that have been driving them have.
Okay, but here's the thing. There's one car out there where chargers cure range anxiety, and you happen to own it, Mr. Tesco. The rest of the cars, the Leaf, the iMe, all those other pure EVs that are out there just dotting the highways. I mean, you're going to spend 5 hours charging your Leaf? Now, I know that with the level 3, 30 minutes to 80%, right?
Yep.
Patrick, the Leaf owner?
Yes. You can if it's in the right place. So I've driven my car 200 miles in a day. There was an event. I got up, it had a full battery. I drove to the event, took some pictures, drove back home, plugged in for an hour. Then I drove to work. They have charging stations at my work. I was able to charge up all day there. Then I drove to the event I was going to that night. They had charging there, and then I was able to make it home. So if there's charging everywhere you happen to be going, I never had to sit and wait for it. It was charging while I was doing whatever I was there to do. And it just so happened that I was able to get 200 miles that day by charging 3 or 4 times throughout the day.
And with a Leaf, with CHAdeMO, it kind of becomes more of a regional car, depending on the infrastructure. I mean, I have a customer who lives in Cheyenne, which is 100 miles north of here. You can't get to Boulder in one charge, but in Fort Collins, there's a CHAdeMO station, so he stops there, checks his email, has a cup of coffee, and 20 minutes later, he's on his way and gets down to Boulder, Denver area. So he just plans for that, taking that little break, and he makes it work. So it's a little more planning, but it is doable.
Okay.
Yeah. If they're the right level of charging and they're in the right place, you can really make it work well. Yeah. We posted this story before we leave it, and Glenn Hutchinson commented on it. He said, "I'm one of those 1,200 people in Kansas City that plugs in, and let me just say that these things have exploded on the scene. It's like 1 second there was none, and now they're everywhere.
Cool.
They appear to have 2 teams, one that installs the station and another that comes along about 2 months later behind and paints as well as puts up signs. And once those are in place, the icing really drops." So yeah, for all of you who don't know what ICE is, internal combustion engine, and it's being iced or icing is when somebody with a gas car parks where they shouldn't and blocks you from being able to charge up.
Thank you, Glenn. I totally appreciate that on the scene perspective. Because honestly, I don't pay attention to Evan. Familiarity breeding contempt.
There you go.
So, speaking of how to incentivize, a word I despise, how to incentivize people to buy non-ICE cars, our next story is a pretty quick one, but there's a couple of states, and one of them was Tennessee, announced that starting June 15th, they're going to offer rebates on zero-emission battery electric vehicles, $2,500 for, the zero-emission battery vehicles, $1,500 on plug-in hybrids. I think this is the first time Tennessee's doing this. They have almost $700,000 in rebate money set aside. It's first come, first serve, as it frequently is with these things. But cheers to Tennessee for offering up some cash for people to buy lower emission vehicles or zero emission vehicles.
That's pretty cool.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just say, and don't they make the Leaf in Tennessee? So
yes, they do.
Furthermore, they have a pretty robust CHAdeMO network throughout the state. They Cracker Barrel tested CHAdeMO at their stores there, and you can actually make a loop all the way around Tennessee on CHAdeMO chargers in a Nissan Leaf. So it's probably a good place
all
to
the 80-year-olds could drive their Leafs to Cracker.
Hey, I love me some Cracker Barrel.
Exactly. This is the restaurant that caters to 80-year-olds. It has rocking chairs out in front, but they've got CHAdeMO chargers.
I'm telling you, they've got the best pork sausage in the industry. That's good stuff.
As my wife would say, Bessem. Good Southern girl that she is. Wow, I had no idea.
Some of their customers remember like the first gen electric cars that came out before they turned
the 1950 Detroit Electric.
Yeah.
19 diddly dot.
Yeah. Woohoo!
You haters, you're all going to burn in hell for this.
Oh, for hating a Cracker Barrel? Please.
You're hating the old people.
No.
So don't just assume that young people are the only ones that buy plug-in cars. I was actually in 2011 and 12 when the demographic data came out about who were buying the plug-in cars. It was a lot of older people. You might think that, this new tech's only adopted by young folk, but it's not necessarily true.
Well, there's a lot of street-legal golf carts sold in Florida.
We like to call those battery or neighborhood electric vehicles.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Because golf carts, so passé.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Next group trip, we're going to Cracker Barrel.
Oh, you're going to Cracker Barrel. No. Yeah. I'm not gonna lose that sponsor. Let me just say this: my mother-in-law works at Cracker Barrel. Thank you very much. So whenever I visit, we have the obligatory employee discounted Cracker Barrel meal. Thank you.
Well, now you can charge your car there.
And now I can charge my non-existent Model S. Well, speaking of Tesla. Just because we can't stop talking about them.
And shouldn't.
Lots of people posted about what's being called, which kind of annoys me for some reason. Oh, because everything annoys me. It's a pop-up store. Basically, Tesla's taken a container, and they've made a little store kit that they can drive it around, drop it, and pump the Model S and the other things. I think the interesting thing for me here was that we're talking. Oh yeah, the first it's going to tour the United States and Europe this summer, starting in Santa Barbara. It'll stay there for a month before moving to the Hamptons. Yeah, obviously hitting the low rent neighborhoods. But
yeah.
All the money.
Yeah,
it's hard to sell $100,000 cars in the low rent area.
So you're saying
I'm sure the next
not front of the
Ferguson,
Walmart,
Missouri.
So no Cracker Barrel tour.
How many Cracker Barrels are on the tour?
Sorry, I had to go there. You know what? This is a cool idea. We've seen car companies do things like this. Where they take a trailer and they convert it, and they put simulators or video screens or whatever. They put all sorts of stuff in them and then drive them around all summer long to hawk their wares. Tesla's obviously, this is nothing new. This is an interesting twist. But I guess the interesting part would be if they actually got more aggressive with this concept. And what if they went to states where they weren't allowed to have dealerships?
Right, yeah, this is all just to stay ahead of the law so they can pack up and run to get away before Smokey grabs them.
Whatever, I'm just, it's not a store. It's not a store.
That's right.
Display, so like 30 containers roll into Texas next week. There's 30
into Texas.
Yeah.
Airdrop them from a C-130 or something like that.
Ouch. That would not be a good landing. You guys, what do you think? Cool idea? Dumb idea? Waste of time? Nobody cares?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Look, it's cheap. They can cover a lot more territory than waiting to try to build more brick and mortar places. Look, they can target these high dollar locations where people maybe have heard about it, thought about it, but just didn't take the time to go out of their way to find a store. What the heck?
Yeah, so before I bought my Leaf, Nissan was doing an electric drive tour where you could actually go and try out the car. And I'd already had my reservation in, and then I got to go do the test drive, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get this. So being able to get behind the wheel of something you've heard about or like or interested in really could be what makes the sale.
Oh, especially with an EV.
Yeah.
Well, especially since the early adopter market's probably done with, and they're starting to look at trying to grab people that aren't, willing to wait almost 4 years for a car that they've never seen sight unseen from a company that might go bankrupt before they ever build a car. That was me, but that's not everybody. And there's actually people that like to touch and feel and drive and look at paint samples and whatever they do that makes it car purchase important to them.
This is a whole new insight into the anxiety process, or the anxiety that you went through getting your Model S, Evan. I had no idea.
It's a little anxiety,
Hey, what's 100,000 friends, Well,
it was just $5,000 at risk, but it's still $5,000 at risk.
Yeah.
Could have been building interest somewhere.
It could have been on hold for a Fisker or a Coda.
Aptera.
Yeah.
Ampera? Did you say Ampera, Paul?
No, Aptera.
Oh,
Aptera. Oh, yeah. I wish that Aptera had been built.
Those three-wheeled things are so horrible.
I know, but they were fun.
You just wanted to laugh at them and drive by them. You didn't actually want one, and that's why they were never built. So, Tesla container stores coming to a wealthy community near you. Keep a lookout. Maybe you will get to drive a Model S, or at least steal something from the interior. Finally, kind of a weird story. I don't know why this one came up on my radar like it did, but a little town called Beacon Falls, Connecticut, is building the world's largest fuel cell park. This is a 66.3 megawatt fuel cell energy park being proposed, and again, if it's built, it will be bigger than the current world's largest, which is a 59 megawatt fuel cell park in South Korea. I think maybe the main reason I put in here is just so you guys could do 10 minutes of hydrogen jokes. Bad?
Yeah, I didn't know there were unicorns in Connecticut.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you. So, as much fun as I'll make this personal, because of course you guys are better behaved than I am. As much fun as I like to make of hydrogen fuel cell cars, a lot of this makes sense. A stationary park where you're running, natural gas lines or however to it, makes a lot more sense than a little tiny fuel cell stack in a vehicle running around with a pressurized tank in the trunk. Anyone want to argue with that?
No, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
How's it better than... I guess I don't understand what the point is.
Well, let's just pretend that it's running on natural gas, like the Bloom Energy boxes or whatever. It's going to be a much cleaner use of that natural gas than to generate power than obviously an oil plant or a coal plant. It's not fraught with the waste of a nuclear plant.
But can't you just burn natural gas to make heat, to make steam, to run a turbine or something? Like
that sounds so Victorian.
Yeah.
Of course you could.
Yeah, I don't see the point. Even if this is 10 or 15% more efficient, you're still. Where'd you get the natural gas? You had to frack someone's backyard to get it and make the tap water burn. No.
And the fuel cell cost $1 gazillion per megawatt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for cleaner options, but my goodness, the cost versus the amount of energy you're getting, gee, many.
Yeah, for the cost, how many wind turbines or thermal solar or solar PV with battery backup or offshore wave or there's a whole lot of options that I think money would be better spent there.
I mean, I guess if it's, how's it being paid for?
It doesn't say.
But it's important that it's the biggest one ever.
Skip right over that money thing.
Big,
damn it.
Yeah, 15% bigger, which obviously means that some idiot somewhere else is going to build a 71 megawatt fuel cell energy park. Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I get, I'm all for lots of clean, sustainable options. I mean, while this is a better use of fuel cell technology and other things they can use it for, I'm not super sad, okay, what's the point here? Maybe this is replacing a coal plant, and they're fracking the hell out of the Northeast anyway. It's not like anybody's going to stop them. Natural gas is dirt cheap. I guess there's probably a way to polish this turd. Acknowledge that we are polishing a turd.
So it'll produce enough power for 60,000 homes. I'd really like to see the numbers. I mean, could you have put solar to power 60,000 homes for the same price and been a heck of a lot cleaner and easier and not taking up that land and probably not have to use fossil fuels? And
you mean encourage individual solar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a big field of it, whatever.
Well, it's Connecticut. That's probably not super practical.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Well,
All right.
we'll see if they ever build it.
Brave new world.
Exactly. Check back with us in the next, I'd say 5 years, and maybe this bad boy will get built. I actually was hoping that Cooper was going to be on just so he could criticize me for posting something from the Republican American. He loves to critique my sources. So, believe it or not, kids.
Someplace you read regularly? Is that one of your normal perusals every morning?
It's the Twitter feed.
That came from one of my Google alerts, actually.
There are things that you like to get your ire up and going. That'll wake you up every morning with some anger.
Damn it! These fuel cells are out of control. Anybody have anything else you want to bring up?
I got nothing.
Got nothing, Evan. Come on, you don't even have a complaint about anything.
Not this week. I'm good. I know.
Okay, well let's move on to the plugs then and call it a night. Evan, I'm going to go right back to you. Any plugs for this week?
Yeah, have you guys ever heard of a place called Cracker Barrel? They have the best sausage, and I'm giving a shout out. And some of them have CHAdeMO chargers. They're really cool.
Now, do you know what's in their sausage?
I don't care. It tastes good.
Cayenne green.
You really do a shout out to Cracker Barrel on What Drives Us?
That's a middle finger right there.
I'm trying to get this episode renamed the Sausage Fest.
Yeah.
That's how we started.
I think it will. Thank you, Patrick.
The cracker sausage.
Those sausage
crackers.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that. Hey, Patrick, do you have any plugs this week?
I do. I would like to give a shout out to Solar City. So today, Solar City came out and installed 8 kilowatts of PV panels on my roof, in addition to the 4 that I already had. So now we're up to 12 kW. Cool. Yeah. And they were here one day, got it done. Unlike the local installer I used for the first one several years ago, where it took them 2 weeks to get things done.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yep.
So, how much of that your total energy needs is that going to satisfy?
Not quite 100%. I'm still going to be buying some off-peak stuff when I charge my car at night, ironically.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, not using grid energy is not using grid energy.
Right.
Right. So yeah, we're like 85% off-grid.
Wow. That's
very good.
Now, is this a purchase thing, or was this one of those leases with them?
This is a lease. So the original system I bought, and we own that one, and even with that, we were looking at our electricity bill. We had enough that we qualified for their program, and this time instead of paying for it, we decided to do the lease. So it cost me $0 out of pocket, and now it's up on my roof, and it'll be making electricity that I'll buy, and I'll be buying it at cheaper than I would from my local utility. So I didn't have to pay anything. I get power cheaper, and it's solar. No brainer.
Well done.
When do you order your Tesla Powerwall?
Actually, that's how I got in contact with them. Is when the Powerwall stuff came out, I signed up for the mailing list, and at the end they said, "Are you interested in solar?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And then, as we talked about on the show last time, the math doesn't make sense here in Oregon, where electricity is cheap. There's no reason for me to store it in a battery and then cycle the battery and wear it out when I can just spin my meter backwards and buy power back when I need it. So here, where electricity is cheap, the Powerwall is not. We talked about it. If you're on an island, or if you're somewhere where you lose power a lot, or the grid's unreliable, then it makes sense. But if you have a reliable grid and cheap power, there's no reason to buy a battery.
Right.
Paul, were you going to say something? I'm sorry. You seem like you were...
No, I was just wondering how well solar works when it's always raining.
Oh.
Yeah, it actually, I've had panels since 2007, so I have years of data to show that it works quite well.
Good.
Awesome. Well, speaking of Paul Guzik, Paul?
I'm going to plug my business, Boulder Hybrids, for anybody in Colorado with a hybrid or EV. We can service your car, we can fix your battery, we can do anything you need. So give us a call. And our website's boulderhc.com.
That's boulderhc.com. Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
Excellent. And you're in Boulder, Colorado?
We are. Just
Wow.
up the road from Denver, Colorado.
And you work on hybrids and EVs?
That's right.
I had no idea. All this time I've known you, I thought you were just hanging on the back room of a record store or something.
Yeah.
How close to a Cracker Barrel are you?
I happen to know there was one quite close, actually.
I have not seen it.
The first EV.
A Cracker Barrel is a Waffle House in Colorado.
Nope, there is a Cracker Barrel in Colorado. The first EV I ever drove was a RAV4 EV, and it was about halfway between Boulder and Denver. So
Wow.
You're
I
kidding.
happen to know there's one there.
I've never seen it.
I had no idea.
Yep.
Well, Paul,
there is another chain here called Twin Peaks, which I think they have another.
yeah, they encourage you to wear fun leather vests and bring firearms. Yeah. I hear that's an exciting place on Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, since Mr. Cooper isn't here, I'll step in and do my best to slaughter his plug. If you have a Prius and you need anything for that Prius, the place you want to go is the Prius Chat Shop. That's priuschat.com/shop for all your Prius accessory needs. And you can dress it up. There's cool stuff there, stereo things.
You see that cool new thing he's got for your cell phone?
Yeah, the
like you
shifter?
change the shifter knob, and it's got a magnet, and you put a magnet on your case on your cell phone, and it sticks to the shifter, so it's right there where you can see it. It's pretty cool.
So you can take your eyes off the road more often.
Yeah, that's so horrified by that. I mean, I love it because I wish I had a cell phone holder in my car. But that's very cool. And I guess it won't get in the way of the airbag and rocket at your face at 12,000 miles.
That's a thing.
Yeah, because that's always my fear is like anything I'm going to put anywhere on the dash anymore is eventually going to be embedded in my forehead. Not bad enough that those, the Tanaka airbags already come with shrapnel. It's adding shrapnel to them. Yeah, what was it? Ford's recalling like every car they ever made in the last 30 years or something?
I guess it's their turn after Chevy did, huh?
Holy moly. All the new Mustangs, it's like, what? You know, on top of the airbags, this is other stuff.
Yeah.
Is it me, or does it seem like there's a lot of big recalls in the last couple of years?
Yeah, there's been a string of them.
Okay, so it's not just me. There's
well, all that GM stuff. I mean, they had to recall very nearly every vehicle they had ever built. So that was, I mean, that rolled out month after month after month for a long time there, and now we've got this airbag thing, and like I said, Ford just announced their thing, and so yeah, it sure seems like it.
not a good time to own a standard American-made car. I guess. So let's wrap this up. As always, our thanks to Mr. Michael Manring for our theme music. You can visit him at manthing.com. We're here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can find us at Google Hangouts on Air. We encourage you to come and watch us live, or, of course, you can visit us at whatdrives.us and download the show or play it or stream it right from there. We have audio versions. We have video versions. You can download us on iTunes, on Slacker. We're damn near everywhere. So, there's no excuse to miss the show. That's all I'm saying.
Stitcher, not Slacker.
Not Slacker,
Yeah.
Stitcher. I'm sorry. I'm old. I got confused.
Go to Cracker Barrel.
You hosed me. I was going to say Cracker Barrel sausage. I need Cracker Barrel sausage. My wife's going to kill me because she loves sausage gravy.
She loves the sausage.
Hey. Oh, now you're okay. Yeah, she does. Yeah,
We
she
went there.
does. Okay.
Oh, sorry, we're still on the air.
Oh, this isn't the B-roll part?
Not the B-roll part, my friend. I'm going to bail out. I think I'm going to bail out of this, but I'm going to say, first of all, thank you, Patrick, Paul, and Evan. Thank you so much for coming on this week. I appreciate it.
I hope this week's show recorded properly, unlike last week's show that was all B-roll.
Yeah, not so good.
Last week was mumbo jumbo.
And apologies to that. Unfortunately, we had nothing to do with it. Since we record the show through Google Hangouts, when Google Hangouts has a problem, we're kind of stuck. And Danny and I are thinking about different ways we might be able to back the show up or record otherwise. But for now, we're relying on our friends at Google to deliver our show safely to each one of you every week. Did that sound cheesy enough?
Yeah.
Very.
That's good. So, download us next week and find out what drives us.
Bow.